So if you do have any questions about it, please do reach out to Greg. Your TAs will probably also have some information. I as well. It is an awesome, amazing program. That's how I got into Launch Code. Alrighty, so I'm gonna go ahead and start sharing my screen here. How is everybody? Everybody doing great? Everybody ready for this? Very excited?
Yes.
That's what I like to hear.
So ready.
So ready. All right. Well, awesome. I'm gonna get a few things ready here and then we will get started. Of course you didn't go where I wanted to go. Can anyone tell me what they can get out of why did I put this meme? Anybody? Can anyone tell me why I put this meme here?
Discount double check.
Heck yeah, discount double check. Awesome. There we go. All right. Now let's see if my computer for some reason today has been on the fritz. So if I am glitchy or anything's glitchy, just let me know. It is the little computer that could right now. So I'm really just trying to see if it will go. There we go. As you can see that like my GIF is already like glitchy for some reason. I don't know. Okay, so also fair disclaimer. I have been hiking since 5 a.m. today. So if you see me on my third Red Bull for the day, that is why. But I am feeling a lot better, so I want to be as peppy as possible for all of you today. So we're going to go ahead and dive into this. Today is the day for model validation. We've already talked about models. We've talked about time leap. We talked about MVC, and it's time to add some protection to all of our applications that we've been building. Before that, we always know we get into some announcements here. So let's just talk about that. First things first, Monday, there is no lecture. Unfortunately, you have to go just another few days without hearing my voice or going through this lecture, so I do apologize for that, but the next one will be on Thursday, so don't worry, rest assured. The next thing is that there will be a live studio review tonight, again at 8:30 p.m., just because, again, of the time constraints. This is not a normal thing. The week after that, it will not be a live studio review. I'll be going back to just questions on Slack or one-on-one time. So this will be the last live studio review we do here will be tonight. So just letting you all know that. Continuing on, please get ready for assignment 4. That means getting assignment number 3 in. So if you haven't gotten assignment 3 completely done, don't worry about it too much, but definitely make sure that you identify those knowledge gaps and get them answered to get your assignment 3 in as soon as possible. Finally, I want to give the first reminder out that the assignment 4 is the last assignment, but there is one more graded thing that we have by the end of class, and that is Studio 19. There will be no formal video or anything like that for Studio 19 because you'll be turning this into your TA. So do remember that. Studio 19, very important studio. Do work on this alone. It's about authentication. Of course, we haven't covered that yet. Just again, this is your first reminder. All right. So if there's no questions or anyone has any,
Can I have clarification on the lecture for Monday? So is it a work day or is there just nothing?
I believe looking at the schedule, it is an off day. I do want to confirm, Greg, if you're still on the line, I just want to make sure that that is an off day. But I don't want to get that wrong. It didn't look like there was any work day or anything like that. It's literally just your break. Just to take a breather, getting caught up and everything like that. Can any TA just confirm that, or Greg, if you're still on the line? Okay, I will get confirmation here, just to double check, but it seems like it will be just like your off day to relax or to catch up for assignment 3 and getting ahead for assignment 4. But again, I'll double check that. If anyone again online can confirm that, please let me know or just Slack me directly. Any other questions?
Calendar, if that helps.
Say that again?
There's nothing on the calendar for that date. So.
Right. Yeah, that's what I saw too. So I'm taking that as an off day. It usually means an off day, but I always like to get I like to double check. Discount double check, right? So let me get that double check for you and I will let you know as soon as I can. One second. And then, all right. Any more questions about any of these assignments? Okay. All right, let's start diving into lecture then. Gosh, oh wait, do I have my thing? Oh, that's why I could hear everything. I don't have the other thing on. All right, let's dive into this. So we're not going to be starting out with validation yet. We're going to start out with the opposite of validation. That is a bunch of fun errors. Everybody loves errors. So let's see what we can do with these things. I'm going to give you just a bit of code here. And all I want you to tell me is that if we have this error, what's going on with this code? What's going wrong with it? Why is it broken? And what do we need to put in here to fix it or change or anything? Can anyone?
At cat?
There is
no 5.
There's no index 5.
So technically that's correct. That is an error, but we have a protection around that. I did hear someone maybe throw that out. Can someone tell me what we're missing?
Add catch if the index is undefined.
Very good. We needed to add a catch here. That's what this error above means. The error says try without catch, find your other resources declarations.
Oh, I completely missed that.
No worries. So yeah, we were missing a catch statement here. What else are we missing on this catch? We put the word catch, but we're missing one more thing here to complete this. What are we missing?
Row.
Say that again.
Row.
Do you say row?
Row, THROW.
Oh, throw would be to go to the catch statement. But our catch statement, that's close. Throw would be using with try catches, but it's not exactly what we're missing here. What we're missing is the parameters for the catch. In here, we have to put the parentheses and then what we're going to catch. We have to make a safety net for something, and it's usually an exception. So we have to put in parentheses exception here for our try catch. Then within our try catch, we can actually put something in here to do when that error comes about. This goes back to our try catch days. So I just wanted to remind everyone that these do exist. They're very helpful, and this is how we set them up. So any questions about this? All right, take a long, hard look at it because these are not going anywhere. Remember, they do exist and how we set them up. Let's keep going. What if we had this? And the error that we're getting is a 404 error, page not found. What are we missing?
Mapping. A post mapping.
Annotation.
We're missing, I like all these. We're missing an annotation. We're missing a type of mapping. Remember, post mappings is when we have an action, not when we're trying to find a page necessarily.
Good.
So a get mapping. Remember, get mappings are when we want to find a page. Post mappings are typically when we want to perform an action on a page.
Oh.
So you'll typically see this with get mappings, though they can happen with post mappings. So I'm not saying that's wrong at all, but you'll typically see them with get mappings.
So is request mapping a combination of both of them?
Absolutely. Request mapping is a very general word to be able to use with get mappings and post mappings. Request mapping is just, yeah, like you said, more general, like consumes both of them, or you can use both of them within it. By using that method attribute, you can put in the parentheses. Or action. Is it the action attribute? The action attribute. Let's double check that. But yes, you can. All right, very good. So we have the get mapping. Let's keep going. How about this one? In here, we're getting a line beneath our our curly bracket at the very bottom. This is the error that we would see. We get like a little squiggly line right underneath this bracket. What are we missing here?
There's no return statement.
Try say that one more time. I was trying to listen.
Return statement.
Very good. Yes, we're missing that return statement. Right. We have to return a string because that's what it said in the very top. Great job. Let's go to this one. We're getting an issue saying cannot resolve symbol age. What's going on with this one?
The type designated.
Data
Very
type.
good.
Data type.
Very good. We needed that data type up there. But we're also getting one more error here. What's the problem?
Semicolon. I think semicolon.
Very good. We're missing that semicolon. Awesome. Let's keep going. Any questions about this one or the last one? Alrighty. So we have this guy. and we're getting this error that says required Boolean provided string. What's going on?
It has to return a Boolean.
Very good. Awesome job. So we have to return true or false here. So what this function, or what this method did, was it just returned a string, but we should be returning the Booleans. And what it was doing is checking a name. In this case, it was validating the name, and we were returning the wrong return type. So very good. That's how we fix it. But to stick on validation, let's talk about that. That's what this whole lecture was about. Validation, to try to get away from these errors that we just had to create. So to do that, we're going to have a talk. We need to talk about validation and trust as developers. In the development community, we love data, we love information, when we love our users. But with love, it doesn't mean we necessarily have to trust them. We know that we're all human. Humans use pencils, and why we use pencils is because they have erasers because we make mistakes. Humans have a natural tendency to make mistakes with data, the data that we love, and we need that is very, very important for applications to work. That being said, we never, ever, ever, ever want to trust our user. Again, we love them to death. We're happy they're there. We're happy they're using our application, but there is absolutely no trust in this relationship. Second thing we need to do is that maybe a user doesn't always produce data. Remember, users can be humans, but the data can also come from machines. It can come from bots on the internet. It can come from just natural, like weather stations or something like that, other technology. Technology also messes up. So what this means is that never trust unvalidated data. Data that comes into your application should always, always, always be untrusted until you as a developer make your program check it, aka validate it. Hence what leads us to our point. You should only trust what you have checked, what your application, your code has checked, and that's it. Just remember, as a developer, love your users, love data, but never truly trust it until you double check it. Hence why validation is extremely important in today's society. How we do that is with server-side validation. And it is honestly a saving grace to developers to have this. But before we dive too much into it, we're kind of coming up here on a word that we haven't really explored too much just yet. And that is the server-side validation. What is server-side? So let's go ahead and quickly talk about it. We're still double checking that data. We have two sides to every application on these web applications. We have the UI side, the user interface, and we have our Spring Java app, which is technically the server that is doing all those requests and responses and everything like that. Well, the UI sends over those requests to our server, and then it sends over responses. Our UI side, in this regard, is called the client side. You'll also hear it referred to as the front end, but today I'm going to be referring it to the client side. It's the client, it's your user. It's the person sending over requests like, do this for me, and getting responses back. That means on the right-hand side, we have the server side, the person that's actually doing the hard work to take in whatever the user wants or what the client wants and return them to the best of their ability what they need. This right here is the basic architecture of how all web applications that we use today actually work. And this shouldn't be too unfamiliar to all of us. We've seen this as we've moved forward with the MVC model. So any questions just about this, what server side is, what client side is, and how it might affect us in any way? All right, well then let's dive a little bit closer into the server side. Let's get really deep into it. So on the UI side, we'll send over things to our server. That's things for them to do. And these are typically those gets and those posts. In this instance, I'm going to be sending over a get. We've seen this before. We want to send over this get. It's going to send over that request. It's going to give us back a response, and it's going to build the page. Once we build this page, we have a text box and we have a button. That's what this get request does, is it builds us the page. We got a page and we got it back, and now we can interact with it. So if I type in start again and I press the create button, I'm interacting with this. When I click that button, an interaction occurs. What kind of request gets sent if an interaction occurs on your website, typically?
Get.
Both.
a post. If an action occurs, if an interaction occurs, a post occurs.
Post.
Sends information to the controller. So we send over the name Stark to our controller to do something. And what it does now is it just accepts it blindly. This is how we have it constructed as of this moment. It says, okay, Stark looks good to me. That's completely fine. I'm going to create my dog object and send over a response of whatever it is. Now, this is all fine and dandy. This is an ideal world. And if it was always like this, we could absolutely trust everyone and everything. But let's look at another situation. We go into the same thing, it builds the page, and we have this create text box. But what at this point, I just completely blank out and I forget to type in my name Stark. Excuse me, and I press the create button. Well, I still press that create button, therefore a post still occurs, and I just sent over my name equal to null. I just sent a dog's name of null, nothing, over to my controller to do something with. And the controller's still gonna be like, okay, well, I know this is wrong, but I mean, it's completely fine. Bring in null, as long as I don't break, it's all good. And it's gonna send back that response. But null is not correct. Null is not a dog's name, and we don't want our dog's name to be null. Actually, that'd be kind of cool, dog's name. But in this case, we're not gonna want that. That might be my other dog's name. I like that, null. Okay, anyway, no, we're not gonna do that. So null is not a correct dog name, hence why we need to be able to validate this data. We shouldn't have been able to do that. So let's explore how we can actually protect against this. We're gonna build our favorite companion as always. Who can tell me, how do we start building our dog model? How do we start building it?
Dog object.
We're gonna start with just a public class dog. So a dog object, a dog class. And then next in this class, or for our model dog, how do we provide it a name?
Private string name.
Private.
Very good. We have our private string name here. And then what are those three typical things we need after we declare our class variable that we need for our name? What do we need to do next?
Constructor.
Constructor.
Very good.
Getter and
Constructor.
Getter.
Setter.
Absolutely. And we get that getter and then we get that setter. Those three things, the constructor, the getter, and the setter. Very good, everybody. All right, so this is, remember, models and classes are very, well, basically the same thing. It's just how they're used, and that terminology is a little bit different. So that's what's going on here. Remember, when I say dog model, if you want to construct a dog model, it just means constructing a dog class. Here we go. Awesome. So let's talk about one more thing then. We want to, like we said, we want to place some protection around that name. We don't want our dog to be null. We don't want our name of our dog to be null, nothing. We want it to actually be a string. So we need to produce some protection for this in our model. And luckily, Spring provides this for us. And again, of course, in its favorite way, annotations. If I don't want my name to be null, there's an annotation for that. And what we do with annotations is put it right on the class variable. In this case, there's a Spring annotation called not null. We'll see how this really works intricately in the future, but this is the first step of providing that protection. @ sign not null. Additionally,
what's the sign?
I'm sorry?
I'm sorry. Would not blank work since you can't have any?
Very good transition. So we want it not null, but also we don't want it blank. So we can pile annotations onto each other to provide additional protection as we move forward. So not null and not blank. And we can keep piling these on as much as we want to protect our string against various cases. So yes, you're absolutely correct. We could provide not blank because I don't want it blank as well.
Can you explain the difference between blank and null?
Absolutely. So null would be equal to null. The actual orange word that lights up, that's null, meaning nothing. And then not blank means it can be equal to a string, but it can be equal to an empty string. And let's go a little bit more into depth with this because I do need to show the example for this. So we're going to come over to the dog class. come over to our models, our dog. And up here, I'm going to provide, how do we do it not null again?
At not null.
No.
Oh, come on. Why are you being like this to me right now? Give me 1 second here. What do I have in my other one then?
Somebody helped me with, it might be the same problem I was having where I had to add it to my build.gradle file. I don't know if that's what's happening.
Yeah, I might have to do that. I thought it was part of an existing one, so I'm just gonna go to, not spot A. I don't want spot A, cancel. Let me just go to the other one. Do you remember?
Yeah, I can add it in the chat.
Oh yeah, please do.
This is the implementation code. It's in the chat now.
Awesome, thank you very much. And then Adam, thank you for providing those examples. And then which chat?
You get for credit.
Which chat did you put that in?
Oh, I put it in the Zoom chat, but I can put it in Slack. Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I didn't have that open. Okay, yeah, no, I got Zoom chat right here. Give me 1 second. Thank you very much.
It's in here too for anyone. It's in the Slack for anyone who needs it.
Great. Let me go to my build.gradle. I do not have that. Okay.
Yeah, I was kind of wondering about that. Is it just not included with this Java? Like, because Java it includes Java X or JavaX, I don't know how they say it, and it includes a lot of different JavaX statements, but not the validation. And I don't know, is that just like a Java thing? Does that vary between different?
Well, yeah. So I don't know why. Like, I don't know the design details of why they're separate, but they separate these packages out because maybe sometimes when you're doing Spring, you don't want to do validation for whatever reason. But you also remember these packages are very large, and you want to try to keep your application as small as possible. So they divvy up those packages. So I'm assuming it's different because this is probably validation is a pretty large package, and they didn't want to include it in people's applications unless they absolutely wanted to or wanted to implement it. So is that kind of where you're getting at with your question, or did I completely go off the rails there?
No, that makes sense. Thanks.
Okay, yeah, for sure. All right, so it looks like Gradle's rebuilt here. So let's go back to dog and see if it's happier with me. Hey, look at that. It is. Thank you very much for that. All right, I'm going to make my quick note there. No, I'm not, because I don't have a pencil. Fantastic. All right, so we said not null, and then we said not blank. There we go. And as Adam stated in there, we were going to say what each one was. If it's not blank, or sorry, if it's not null, it shouldn't be able to equal null. You can't have it equal null. If it's not empty, it can't look like that. And then if it's not blank, it can't be like just a blank string kind of thing. I think that was the samples. Let me make sure here. Yeah, exactly. Because not blank will just, yeah, I think they just trimmed this white space. So yeah, not blank is this one. However, this is technically wouldn't be not empty. So it would pass validation there. So hopefully that answers some questions. If not, feel free to go and look in the lecture chat. Adam did post a very good full set of examples there. All right. So this is how we would implement those annotations. Any questions about this, or also the that implementation we just did in the build Gradle too? If any questions around that.
Can you put like both of those on one line?
I don't believe so. You need to pile these annotations on typically, or at least I like to, but looks like you can. So neat. Never done that. Let's see if it's still built. See if everyone's still happy. I like to pile them on just like one after the other. Just because if you have a lot of annotations, it'll run off the line. Sorry, Kim, what's going on?
Sorry, I just said,
You wouldn't want to because you have to put message.
Also true. Yeah, you don't want your lines to get too long horizontally, just because it's a pain in the tush to try to read that code. So I try to keep it line after line. But it looks like you can. So that was really cool to explore. Did I answer both of your questions and everything, or everyone's questions, or anybody else have any other questions about this?
Would you need both? Since it's not blank, it would never be null.
Technically, yes. You want to include these validations on there because if it is, listen to me, I'm trying to think of the correct way to do this. If it is null and you don't have the annotation here to protect it, you might get a 500 error back. So if you know it's potentially going to be null and you don't want it to be null, you need these separate annotations.
Okay.
Yes. You want to protect against it in many different cases. That's why we have these different annotations for these different cases, and you want to have that there to protect against them. Very good question.
Does that protect all of the variables?
Nope. One variable for one annotation. If I wanted to do it down here, I would also have to do not blank and not null for that for this class variable as well.
Okay.
Also a very good question. Anything else? Great comments here. I'm loving it. Alrighty. So just want to show you this right here. We're not going to run it or anything yet. We just started diving into validation, so let's keep going. So we're back here, and we're going to dive deeper into these annotations here. And I think a lot of my slides in the future have already been asked, but we're going to go over these questions anyway. We're going to look into the annotations. We've already seen two: not blank, not null. There's also not empty. That was also mentioned. There is also size. There is min and max. And then there's assert true and assert false. Do take note on the assert true and the assert false, because I don't believe these were covered too in depth in the actual book. So they do exist, and we might see an example here tonight if we have time about these. But in the meantime, excuse me, can anyone tell me any other annotations that they've discovered during their exercises and research that I've not included in here?
I used future.
Future, very cool. Really? Okay, on dates, nice, awesome.
At email.
What'd you say, Kim?
Sorry, at email.
At is new or at e?
At email is what she said.
Oh, at email. Thank you. Yeah, that's a good one too. At email. Sorry, my headphones and the internet. I apologize. Yeah, so at email is very good too. All right. Well, in this case, what we're going to dive into specifically is the size annotation. We're just going to go through this one and just see a quick example of how we can add more attributes to this, or different parameters. Excuse me. Okay, so starting with size. We just saw in our past coding example, we just have that annotation there. But we know annotations can take in parameters. We've seen it on post mapping, we've seen it on get mapping, and it's the same here. So some of the values that we can have in here would be, say, min equals 1. For sizes, we want to measure certain amounts of strings. So we want to say, like, okay, I want my string to be, like, for my dog, I want it to be at least 1. Though that kind of might be weird. I might at least want maybe 3 for a dog name. So I do a min of 3. But maybe I don't want my dog's name to be over 100 characters or over 10 in this case. So I'd say my max string should be 10. Well, what would be the case if I entered in a dog's name? Maybe that's 11 characters or 0 characters. Well, then we need to be able to prepare a message for our user saying that they have disregarded our validation and there is an error here. So we include a message here saying whatever we want it to be, like, no, this is not a good dog name. What are you doing? Have some coffee and try it again. That's what we're doing here with the message, is that we want to prepare some kind of feedback for the user so they can correct their mistake. Again, I'll already mention the size parameter. If anyone's seen my exercise video yet, I completely made a mistake here. Very big mind gap here about having size for integers, but they actually should be strings. So just remember from someone who got some wisdom there These are only for strings. So just keep that in mind. Let's take a look at something that is for numbers though. We use the min annotation here, just for minimum. Some of their attributes or some of their parameters would be value equals 1. Nothing should be, the minimum of that value, whatever class variable it's on, should have 1 or above. That's what min says. And it also has a message attribute. It says, okay, if you said -1 or you said 0, -100, you had to prepare that error message once again for the user. So that goes in here. As we said, this is for numbers. But one thing I want everyone to look at here is that for size and for min, 2 validation attributes, they have different parameters inside of them. Size uses min and max, while min uses value. These are very different, and it's hard to actually find a pattern between them. Though they are like self-explanatory, this is when we typically need to start getting into the documentation. You can't learn everything and we can't remember everything, even though we definitely could try. And if you can, good for you, but I definitely cannot. And hence why I go back to the validation, or not validation, I go back to the documentation often. So remember that it's not a bad thing not to remember all the annotations. Go find that documentation. If you do want to see it, it's at this link below. Don't copy this down yet. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just go ahead and copy this link now and paste in the general channel. But if you do want to learn more about these validations, do feel free to. I'm going to post in the general chat if my computer wants to go. Come on, you can do it. Maybe you can't. There we go.
Kyle, my computer's been being weird today too. I wonder if it's a Mac thing.
Maybe it is. Apple's doing something. They're finally trying to take over the world.
Mine too.
I'm having flashbacks to when they had that issue, like in December with the app that couldn't, I think it couldn't get validation. I think that was the problem.
Gosh, it might be. I don't know. Yeah, I really hope I don't have to update or something. This is why I don't like change. I'm a very conservative programmer when it comes to technology. I don't like to update because every time I update, something bad happens.
Same.
I'm still on, like, at work, not gonna lie, I'm still on 2017 IntelliJ just because I don't like change. And I know all of it's, like, I know it's broken, I know it's terrible, but I know why it's broken and where it's broken. So anywho, yeah, if anyone finds out if Apple's broken again, let me know, please. All right, so here we go. I've just pasted that in the general chat. Let's keep going. So after we've done this validation, we need to bring it, so we've discovered validation going into our dog model. But now we need to figure out, how do we exactly hook this up to everything and how does it actually get intertwined? Hence, we're going to come to the controller next, that master of responses and requests. And I'm going to ask you all the question, how do we build a dog controller? What do we start with?
Add controller.
Controller.
At controller, and I'm going to start with the public class dog controller just in this case, but you are all correct with that at controller. So always remember, dog controller is always a class with that special annotation at the top. Very good. Who can tell me how we build a method for post requests for the route dog/create? What do we need to do?
Get post mapping, dog/create.
Absolutely. Very good, everybody. Ooh, let me go back to lecture questions here. There we go. Okay. Alrighty. Continuing on. How do I add the dog class or that dog model as a parameter to this post mapping method?
Model of type model.
I'm looking for a different annotation there.
At model.
Very good. At model, and then one more word.
Attribute.
Very good. Model attribute. Very good. I don't think we're at the model annotation yet, but that does exist. But model attribute is what I'm looking for right now. We use that attribute, model attribute, and then we say dog, dog. We put that model in there. So now when they post on our create dog form, it forms the dog objects and returns it back to us. Very good. Where do we store our data that's shared between controllers? What is that called?
Model dot add attribute.
So that's a model. That's how we share information between Java and HTML, our templates. But this is a question about how do we share data between controllers? What's the thing we learned about last lecture? Where do we keep all of that? When we want cats and dogs to get along.
Model class, models.
Not necessarily models. This is a different thing.
Fragments?
Not fragments either. Not abstract classes. What we're looking for here is called the data layer. The data layer allows two controllers to talk to each other. Remember our example last lecture when the cats wanted the array list of dogs. They can't get access to that because it was private. Hence, we created a dog data layer to contain all of our dogs. So we can share that information between controllers, between the cat controller and the dog controller. So in this case, I was looking for dog data dot add dog. That dog data layer is where we keep all our dogs so everyone has access to all of our dogs, not just the dog controller. With that data layer, we have to stop being greedy now and actually share our data amongst controllers. Any question about that?
No, but I gotta say it. Try to say that line right there 5 times fast.
Dog data add dog?
Dog, yeah.
Dog data add, no, I can't say it 5 times fast. You get 1 time.
Yeah, that was the first thing that popped in my head when that came up, and I had to say it.
It's a good tongue twister. All right, final part about this. How would I redirect to the page show in this post mapping?
Return show.
So return show would actually just populate the template. It wouldn't redirect. We're missing one thing.
Redirect colon.
Redirect.
Very good. Redirect colon/show. This is how we redirect. Redirect colon, and then to a specific page, we put slash and then that page or that route, /show. Any questions about this one? All right. So we have seen all this. Sorry?
So don't you need a semicolon?
I absolutely do. That was part of that test also. Except I have to close down all of my PowerPoint to put that in there. So just pretend it's actually there. So thank you. Yes, you are absolutely right. I need to include a semicolon. Pretend that's there though. Any other questions? And thank you for the call out. Alrighty, let's go ahead and just see that at work real quick. Remember, we come back over here to our dog controller and we have this post mapping already created. That dog create, and then we redirect like :show. So what I want to do now is go ahead and let's see, there you go. Spring, as you've already known, if you've seen it, has a little bit of magic behind it. We call this auto-magically, we'll call it black magic in the development community, things that Spring does for us that maybe aren't necessarily very obvious. So what I want to do right now is expose a quick magic trick that will make things a little bit more clear as we move forward with this. So what I want to do real quick is that I'm going to change the return statement down here. So you're going to see that change to show one dog. What I have created over here is a show one dog HTML. I had that already created previously, and I'm going to just show you it real quick here. So show one dog.html is just like this. It's nothing crazy. But one thing I want to point out here is that if we go back to our controller, does anyone see me calling the model and adding the attribute dog to this at all? Anybody see that?
No.
Right? It's like a magic trick. Does anyone see this, right? So we created this HTML. But what do you see here? On the H3 there, I see dog.name. Now, what we've learned before is like, okay, if you're doing this, technically you should be getting an error. But let's go ahead and try this out and actually see if we will get an error. I'm going to go to the dog controller and I'm going to change this now to show one dog. And I'm going to go ahead and run this. And that's probably what my computer's running, so I didn't realize I was running IntelliJ here. Ugh. Let it start up. Whenever. Excuse me. All right. Over here, and we're going to refresh localhost to /dog/create. All right, so what this brings us, remember we sent out that GET request, so we should get back a nice looking, look at that, a nice looking form here. And someone give me a dog name.
Ghost.
Say that one more time.
I said Ghost.
Ghost, okay. And how old is Ghost?
7.
7 it is. Press create. And I got back this page with no errors, nothing blew up here, and not even passing my dog into the add attributes. So what magic is going on behind here? Let's go back and take an exploration on this one. What's happening here is that the data in the parameters that we have within our post mapping will stick around. They're baked into our template already. We don't necessarily have to add those attributes. The dog that we're building inside of that form will stick around. That information sticks around in the dog object that we're creating. That's the magic that's happening. We don't have to add it to the attributes because it's baked in there. Let's explore that a little bit more. What do I mean by that? So we have our post mapping here. Disregarding even the dog data, that has nothing to do with it. We're looking again at that dog model that we're passing through here. Remember, we created it through that form. You gave me the name Ghost and you gave me the age. So when that happens, is that again, when our template is created here, information gets auto-magically baked into this template for us through Spring. So that dog object that we created is in there and we can actually utilize it. Now I'm telling you this not because now you have to decide whether or not you use add attribute. If you feel comfortable, keep using add attribute. You're not going to hurt anything. But this is going to make sense for things coming down the line here today that should help you out. So again, I'm going to re-say it. If add attribute makes you more comfortable because you can't identify yet what is auto baked in there and not, keep using add attribute. You're not going to hurt anything. So rest assured there. Any questions about this far, about auto baking and the slight magical skills of Spring here? Okay. One more thing, you will often see this used in post requests. Most of this magic is going to be utilized in post requests because again, you're building that information and sending it off to another template after you've pressed create dog or something like that. All right, I'm gonna talk about one more thing about this auto magic thing. Is that, look at this code again. We are returning right now show one dog. But in this case, I'm going to redirect instead. I'm gonna redirect to that show. Same thing happens, we just put our arrows there and then our template is created. But again, from what I just said, you should be like, oh, okay, is information baked into that now as well? Do we still have the dog there? And the answer is no. The difference that we did here is that we redirected. When we redirect, that information does not stick around. That auto bake stuff disappears. It's only when we build templates directly from our post mapping that information stays there. This is a big thing to note if you do want to dive more into this auto baking magic. All right. Oh. Who does not like me yet for exposing this to them? Anybody not happy with me? I'm sorry. I know, I'm sorry. I was literally on the teetering, like, should I tell them about this or just let it all, like, ignorance is bliss kind of thing? And I was like, I kind of have to tell them a little bit here to make things make more sense in the coming things I need to tell you all about. So put a smile on. I'm so sorry. Eat a piece of chocolate. Be happy with me just here for a few more minutes and let's get through this. Let's keep going to just talking about validation. So now that we know about that magic, let's keep going forward. and we're going to bring back that dog controller. If we look here at the return, we're doing that redirect, so don't worry about that. And now we want to talk about what happens here. Or, I mean, sorry, how are we going to instill that validation that we put into our dog model into this post mapping? And one thing you have to do, the one major thing you have to do to provide validation on your mappings is include a very special annotation. That annotation being the @valid. This will only make your validations work. Without it, Spring will not validate for you. So always, 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 if you know you're going to be providing validation, you need to have this annotation here. So with that being said, I'm going to come in here and do that now. Say valid, and of course import it. There we go. So now I'm providing validation for my dogs. So I'm going to come back here. I'm going to do a little bit more. So any questions about that valid and annotation here before I actually move on?
Now that the @valid, that uses the validation in your dog class?
Absolutely, yes. It's whatever validation is attached to that object, that model you have right next to it.
That would be
Dog.
not blank and not null.
Very good on the name at this moment. Yep, very good. All right, so now we know about valid. Let's take a closer look at it. What does it do? So getting into there, we are going to bring back this dog class, and you know, like you just mentioned, we have that not blank and not null on the name. So what exactly is it doing? So looking at the not blank, what it's asking is the name blank? Is it an empty string? So completely close quotes. Or I'm sorry. Yeah, completely close quotes. Yep, yeah. Whoever asked, I forgot, I apologize. Whoever asked the question before, what's the difference between not blank and not empty? I honestly get them mixed up all the time. So don't worry about it too much. I have to double think about it, double check myself. All right, how about not null? Well, this one is more simple for us. Is the name null? Is it equal to null, null? So the question we should all be asking now, and now that we're really, really building up to it, is that what if we have a name of null or an empty string? What exactly happens? And this is a great question. So what we need to do, I want to make sure I'm on my right thing, is that if this happens, naturally, just like in most development, is that errors happen. If they get the validation wrong, and we're using that @valid annotation, and they provide a name that's null or blank or whatever our validation annotations we put on there are, we get back errors. Just like in most things, if it's not like what the code expects, it's going to tell you something about it. So these errors are told to us, this validation errors are told to us in two different places. So we're going to look at those real quick. The first one is that we are going to look in the dog controller. The dog controller get these errors back. As of right now, nothing really has changed. We have our public string create dog, we have our model attribute, and we have our @valid annotation here. But if that validation is incorrect, we need to get back that we had errors happen. So to do that, we add a new parameter called errors with a capital E and an S on the end, errors. This consists of all the errors, the validation errors that happened on our form or whatever was happening when our model was being created, in this case, our dog. So looking at errors, this can be very, very helpful to us. One thing we might have seen in our exercises is a very helpful method that can help us check if we had any errors or validation issues in the form. And that was the errors.hasErrors method. This checks if anything went wrong in the form, clear and simple. And we can build an if statement around it to return a different template if that actually happened. So what I'm going to do now is implement this in the code. And while I'm doing that, I want to reach out any questions about errors or anything with the validation just yet. And if not, can someone tell me now that parameter that we have to add here to get the errors back if any bad validation happens?
The error.
Errors, very good. And I'm going to call it errors with lowercase.
Yeah.
All right. As always, we have to import that class. And then I'm going to build that if statement. So if, and who can tell me that method that we use to see if there's any errors?
Has errors.
Very good, has errors. And if it does have errors, what I want to do is return the user back to the create dog form. So what I do is return them dog.html. So how do I return that? What do I type?
Return dog.
Return dog, very good. So if there are errors, I say, no, you need to go back to the form and check about what you did wrong. So let's go ahead and see that. If it is correct though, we should see the show one dog come back. So let's go and restart our server and try this. Let's see, how do I do on time? Okay. All right, so we come back over here, we go to the dog create. And we're gonna go with ghost one more time. We're gonna type in H7. We're gonna press create. So what, oh, well, so everything is working here because we did create a proper dog. So we are valid. So we don't know if our validation is working just yet. So let's go back. And what do we say our validation was? It can't be blank or null. So I'm just gonna go ahead and press create here. And we see we came back. I'm gonna go ahead and press 7 here, see what happens. There we go. So as we can see, as I press create here, I just keep coming back and looping back into this create form. So nothing here is happening. But one thing I see here is that if I type in 7 and nothing up here, I press create, my 7 disappears. As a user, or if you can just think of yourself, if you were signed up for an email or a newsletter, if you type in something wrong, does everything typically disappear when you press submit? The answer should be not usually. So we typically want our stuff to hang around if our validation is incorrect. So what I'm gonna do real quick is come back here and edit our create. So I have our dog. Now as we can see here, I have my type and name. What we can do to simplify this, as well as our values that are coming back in through our model that's hanging around because of this spring magic, is we can use th field and then provide that data in there. Say dog.name. And then we can do it for here too. Anybody have any questions just yet? I know we're doing a lot of things here for validation.
Not really a question, but I did notice when you do the field on a number, I think you still have to put the type in because for some reason it does it as a string when you do.
It does. Very, very good. Absolutely. Yes. So your so th field helps you with the values and the names more, not typically the types. So if you want to do a checkbox, if you want to do a number, an email, or things like that, yes, you have to definitely insert the type automatically, or not automatically, manually. Yeah, exact opposite of automatically. So yeah, you're absolutely right. So here I would want to put in type equals number if I wanted to be very specific. And I think it might break, actually, I always forget that one, cancel. Let's see what happens. I'm just gonna go directly to it then. Oh, yep, I think it is. Let me start that. Here we go. Start create. All right, what's your problem? Did my binding go wrong? Why am I going crazy right now? Give me 1 second here. Just trying to stick with the example. Anybody can tell me what my thing was. I think it was that. Da-da. That's right. Okay. I completely forgot about that. Let's go back here. Where did my people go? They're there. There you. Alrighty. What I forgot is that, so everything in the model is completely fine. It is under the dog controller in the create, so the get mapping here. So the model, that dog model still persists in the post mapping, but when we do the get mapping, what's happening is that you come back to this dog.html. In the get mapping, there's no such thing as dog yet. There's no dog attribute out there. So in that case, what we have to do is go to the dog controller and place a attribute here for a new dog. So we're gonna say, well, this will be a great question. How do we add the attribute? I need to add a new dog as an attribute to my template.
Model.
What do I need? What was it?
Model.
Very good, model. And then I just want to add a new dog model to my, or new dog model, yeah, to my model here. So I say model, and then what do I say?
Model add new dog.
Add attribute. So I'm going to say dog first. So I need to give it the name, just so my template for the get mapping knows what I'm talking about. I'm going to say new dog. Very good. And then what I'm going to do here is that I need to go over to dog and create an empty constructor here. So I'm going to come up here and I say public ublic dog. And I say this empty string and 0 here. There we go. So what I did was just created an empty constructor here just to simplify things in my code. So going to the dog controller, I see everything's happy now. So I'm going to reboot this. Any questions about what I just did there?
Yes, if you don't name it in the model attribute, does it automatically assign a lowercase value of the class name?
Repeat the first part of that question.
So in the model dot attribute, if you don't actually put the name in quotes, does the program automatically create the name of the object dog, basically a lowercase version of the class itself?
That's a great question. I don't actually know. Any TA know the answer to that one?
I think that's true.
Awesome. Yeah, that's cool. And you know, we will try that next round. Looks like we have a little bit of time here. So let's go and refresh here. It should be the get. So there we go. We have our age 0 name. So I'm going to say ghost again. Oh, I'm sorry. I don't want to do anything there. Press create. And there we go. We are still cycling back here. So, but it's keeping our age hopefully there. Yeah. So when we change our age now, it stays consistent, but we're still cycling back because again, we have that dog validation here. And it's technically still null or blank. So it's going to keep giving this until we actually type in ghost. So there we go. We press create. And now we get our actual site back. So again, for your get mapping, don't forget to add this into there. As we come down here, let's go ahead and hop back real quick to our original documentation here. So any questions about what we just went over here with the errors? Again, all we are doing here is building an if statement to see if the error has errors. And then of course, redirecting it to that dog create site if it does have any errors. If there's no questions about this, let's take a look at place number 2 that these errors persist in. So what we're going to do is look at place number 2. So the first place was in our controller and the second place is going to exist somewhere else. So let's bring in that code that we just did over in the left-hand side. So we have our post mapping, we have all this stuff, we have our errors there inside of our parameters. Nothing here has changed from the last example that we just looked at. But what I want to show you is that if it has dog there, as we saw with the dog model, things do stick around in our templates for us to use. So we have our template, our dog.html. And what's auto baked in there is the dog, as we already know in our post mapping, but also the second thing is those errors. Those errors now exist within our model here. Or sorry, within our template here. They also exist within the dog model, and we're going to take a look at that now. But this is the second place that errors can hide. So any questions about this one? Because we're going to take a look at the example then, if not. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at that then. So as we know is that right now, whenever I type in no dog name or whatever like that, nothing comes back. I have no idea what's going on. And as we know in forms, that's not correct. Usually if you're signing up for an email or signing up for a newsletter and you type in something wrong, an error comes back. So we're gonna go to our template, like we just saw, where our other errors hide. And where they hide is within our models themselves. So we have our field here that repopulates it with whatever our dog's age is and whatever our dog's name is. But we also know that if the name is not entered properly, a message is then stored in the name for us to get as an error back. So the first thing we need to do is have something to display that error. Typically, you don't want to display the error within the text box itself. You want to put some helper text below the text box. So to do that, I'm going to do, just like they kind of do in the example, you can also do a span here too, but I'm going to do a paragraph. So I'm going to th errors. I always forget this one. Errors. Yeah, I was right. Okay. Just want to double check. Don't want to lie to anybody. All right, coming back over here. So we say errors over here. There we go. And then we put in the field we want to actually check and see if there's any errors in there, any validation errors. Remember, this is where those validation errors are saved. So we say dog.name. So here we can actually display our error text. This is where the message attribute comes in handy. That being said, we know that in our dog validation, we don't actually have any messages yet. So let's go back to dog and add a message. We use the message attribute, message equals dog name cannot be blank. And then in our not null, we can say message equals dog name cannot be null. There we go. And then we will restart this. Any questions up into this point as the server's building about what we've done with the validation or just adding those errors into the text box? I'm gonna take that one as a no. All right, we're all started up. Let's go back here. We're gonna go back to create. We're gonna type in, press create. And now I'm seeing some great helper text here. Dog cannot be blank. Well, great, I'll provide a name here. We know that we have no validation yet for age, so we press create, and we just created our ghost. So this was the starting point of providing validation inside of our text box using those validation annotations. So looking at our code, to go over, review real quick what we had to do all this validation was we add those annotations at the top first for our class variable. We go to our dog controller and we add the @valid annotation here to be able to start checking for validation. Of course, if we wanted to, we could add errors here so we can check it and return a good template if we need to. And then finally, we go to our dog.html and we need to catch any of those validation errors using that th errors attribute here in the paragraph. So these were the 3 steps you really need to do in your template, in your controller, and in your model to provide validation. Let's look at one more example before we're done here. If I wanted to provide validation for my age here, say I don't want my dog age to be anything lower than 0. I import min, import the class. I come back to dog controller. I know that my validation is already there. I know that my errors are being checked. If I do have errors, I return my dog template. That means my dog template is where I actually have to implement that error check. So I go to my dog template, and I know down here, I need to now implement that field, which I already have, and now I need to check for errors. So I put my P in here, TH errors equals $ dog.age. I save that, I refresh our server, and we're gonna see what happens here. Perfect, come back, refresh our page, refresh our page. Wow, I cannot make words today. And then I'm gonna press create. It looks like dog cannot be null. So I'm gonna say ghost. Oh, dang it, I totally did that wrong, didn't I? What did I do?
Yeah, do minimum 1.
Thank you. It was like, it was either value or minimum. See, I told you, this is why I do documentation on these validations all the time. It's like, I get twisted and turned on them all the time. Okay, so you said instead of value, it's min? Eh. So I thought it was value, right?
I think you keep value, but just put value 1.
Oh, what am I? Yeah, yeah, because it can be 0. It's less than or equal to. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Okay, it's like I thought I did that right. There we go. Yeah, let's try -1. Let's try creating here. There we go. Yeah, it cannot be lower than 0. So it's equal to 0 or higher than. Okay. There we go. So it's a ghost. There we go. Only one validation, and now we can do 1 because the dog can be 0 years old technically. So there we go. All right, now we're creating our ghost. So those are the steps for validation. Remember, validation is extremely important, no matter how you do it. Spring has its own implementation of validation. Other languages also have their own way. You just, regardless of what technology you're working in, what language you're working in, or what even you're doing, double check any data that comes to you. As a developer, that's extremely crucial. So that being said, we are officially done with this one. So I want to leave this last few minutes open. If anybody wants to go over extended examples of any of the validations or anything we just did during this class. So I'm just gonna open it here now to the rest of you all to see if you guys want to go over anything extra.
Quick question.
Yep.
For the dog name, you had 2 annotations, not blank and not null, but it only showed 1 error, even though I think both were technically tripped. Is it just showing the first one?
So technically, not both of them were technically both of them were not true. It was actually just blank. It was not null. We were sending back a blank string. Blank string is something. It's not null. So only one of these cases were true.
Can I see?
But,
how, yeah.
But I'm assuming if your question is which one gets triggered if it's true. If you have multiple validations that produce false, and that's a great question. Well, let's go ahead and try that out. So I'm trying to think what 2 ones that we can trigger. Let's see. Because I don't exactly know what what the hierarchy is. I would assume the one at the top would be the first one that's validated and then returned in a typical sense. So I would say the top one is your highest hierarchy, the one that gets triggered first. Let's go ahead and see this. So I'll say size. And then our min is 0 our min is 10. We'll say message equals needs to be longer. Okay, so let's go and try this. Import class. So if I type in not blank, right, that is technically lower than 10. So not blank and size would both be true in this regard. Do you agree? Okay, sounds good. And I have been forgetting if I actually pressed start today. What time is it? 6:50. Nope, I need to restart it. It's like always in the back of my mind, like, did I press that button? Like, did I do it? And half the time I'm wrong. It's like, I should just press it again, but it just takes so long. All right, there we go. Very impatient. Okay, so we press refresh there. We come back up here. We're going to leave it blank. We're going to type in 7 here. Oh, it needs to be longer and dog cannot be blank. So it looks like it returns a array list of errors then to us. So we'll have multiple errors. Interesting. I have not explored this yet.
Is it all in one paragraph tag?
Let's take a look. Let's inspect. I'm going to say because of the space, yeah, because of the space, I'm going to assume it is not coming back as a paragraph. I would assume an array. Let's see.
I think the null is in the case that, so while you're in this inspection, you can change the name of that field to something else. So when Spring tries to match the name of the field to something on the dog model, it won't find it. And in that case, it would be null because there's nothing in the request that is named to name.
Here, so I can show you that question real quick. We'll get to the array question here in a sec. So we press create. In the create down here, if we go to the headers, should be sending it back, yeah, an empty string. So it's sending back an empty string here. We can view the actual URL encoded. Yeah, so it looks like so if it was null, it would be, well, it'd be passing back an empty string. So what I'm saying is that if it did pass back null, we should have gotten that error on the validation. I believe if you type back nothing, it sends back an empty string. And yeah, unless, so I'm assuming it's sending back an empty string, but you might have different knowledge than I do. Do you have any other, was there something that you were looking at?
Well, I'm just saying that someone could in the console change the name of that name field, that text box, and then submit the form so that in the request you are no longer sending the field called name, like you could name it something else. In that case, when it tries to get the request parameter to match the name field on the dog model, it will not be there, so then it will be null.
I like that. Yeah, let's go ahead and play with that real quick. That's fun.
And this,
right,
guys, is not knowledge that you need to know. I work in security. I'm TA Alex, in case you don't know who's talking. So.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I can't see.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah.
So.
If we were referring to a number and we didn't enter a number, would that then be null?
No, because it will take this string as a number. But if we rename, is it allowing you to rename the field because it still looks like it's name?
Well, yeah, I just pressed send, so it was refreshing. So I just typed in name here for the name. Typing that. Let me make sure the code's there. But no, you should be correct though. Yeah, because it should be sending it back. Well, let me just see what it goes too fast because it's going to just refresh the whole network. Let's see. Yeah, it should be sending back the null. So yeah, it's sending that over. So it should be a null. Yeah, you're absolutely correct. Yeah, it will definitely see it as a null. I'm fairly certain. So yeah, you're correct there. That's why it's good to have that at null annotation on classes. Remember, at null, everybody, is good for classes, those capital letters. Primitives can't be null, so that annotation wouldn't work there necessarily. So if you just have lowercase ints, feel free not to use that. I would recommend, by the way, your class variables that you do use with MVC to be uppercase letters. Try to avoid primitives if you absolutely can. You can run into some unforeseen issues doing that. But just throwing that out there. But also, Alex, thank you for bringing that up because that is actually really cool. At least for me, I forgot about that. That's absolutely true. As for how the messages get passed back, I'm going to look that up and get back to you. I'll post somewhere in the general channel here what exactly happening. I have a theory it's an array, but I don't know for certain. But it looks like we get back all of our messages, so that's cool. So there's no hierarchy to answer your question, Curtis, finally. There's no hierarchy. It sends back multiple messages if there's multiple failed validations. Cool. All right, everybody. So it looks like we're right at 5 o'clock, or excuse me, we're right at 7 o'clock here. So I will let everybody go. I hope this answered some questions about validation. Got to learn some fun new stuff here. Let me bring everybody back here to my face. But as always, I hope everyone's week ends very well. Thank you very much for hanging out with me today in Vegas. I hope everyone, again, enjoys the validation and enjoy the studio tonight, and stay healthy, stay safe, and I will see you all back here on next Thursday. So thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Kyle.
Thank you, Kyle.
Thanks, Kyle.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Bye, everybody.
All right, Kyle. Thanks a lot, buddy.
Thanks, everybody.